Hello everybody, the next planes coming off the pile are some Stanley No. 140 skewed block planes. I've got 5 of the 140s in varying condition. Obviously 2 of them aren't going to be able to be restored. They'll end up being parts planes, but there are 3 that have potential. The 3 that have potential look like all the parts are there. They appear to be in working order. I don't see any major flaws that jump out at me. No major rust or pitting. The one in the center there appears to be one of the older ones with a patent date. But we won't know what we've got till I break them down and start to clean them up. So it's time to break them down. Now with everything taken apart, I can take a closer look at what I've got. Japanning on the bases looks pretty good. I'll know for sure after I put them in the deep sink and scrub them. But don't see anything jumps out at me with problems with the parts. Everything's there. Everything looks good. So it's time to deep sink these 3 bases right here and see what we've got. So some simple green, a little scrub brush and hot running water. I got a better idea of what the Japanning looks like, and it doesn't look bad. I'm not going to strip and restore these. I might do some touch up. That's about it. Next thing I want to do is clean up the machine surfaces. I've lightly lapped the sides and base of the 2 on the left. They are both sweetheart planes. And the one on the right is an older one with a B casting mark. And that one I didn't do any lapping on. I just cleaned up the metal. And the Japanning is looking pretty good. I'm going to do some touch up. Originally these edges right here had Japanning on them and none of it is left, so I'm going to just do a little touch up. Put that Japanning back on. The metal surfaces here in the throat, the way you clean them is you take a piece of wood and use some spray adhesive, put your 150 grit paper on there, do that cleanup. Same thing here on the ramp where the depth adjuster goes. Get it cleaned up. Then I 4/0 steel wooled the Japanning surfaces to get them to look like they do right now. Here's a quick look at the machine surfaces. The light lapping I did was just to make sure they were true and clean them up. I didn't remove hardly any metal at all. So if somebody wanted to get into them and lap them down to get rid of a little bit of minor pitting that's on those 2, you could do that. Same with the older one with the B casting mark, but they're good just like they are in my book. And there's a look at the inside edge where the side plate goes. And the next thing I'm going to do, like I said, is do some touch up to the Japanning. And the Japanning touch up is completed. As far as application, I put 2 coats on. It's obvious where it is because you see the shiny parts right now, but we're going to blend that right in and you won't even be able to see it. The next thing I'm going to do is sandblast these caps. So I lightly went over the touch-up Japanning work on the bases. The caps have been sanded on the smooth parts with 150 grit on my rubber sanding block, followed by a fine wire wheel, and then 3000 grit, and then a buffer wheel to get them to look like what they do. Next thing I'm going to do is coat everything using my dirty oil rag and let it sit for a while. I worked the dirty oil into every crack and crevice of the base and caps, and I cleaned up the side plates using a worn piece of 150 around the edges. On the outer surface it's machined. And then I followed that up on the outer surface with the sanding block, an old worn one. And on the inner surface, because it's got bluing on it, all I used was the 3 or 4/0 steel wool. Don't want to lose any of that bluing. So that stuff's going to sit probably till tomorrow morning. Next thing I'm going to work on are the knobs. The 2 knobs on the left were cleaned up with a sponge sander and some steel wool. And the knob on the right, I used my scraper and I had to scrape the old finish off. There it is with a burr on the edge. and that also was sanded with a sponge sander and some steel wool. I'm going to put a coat of rosewood stain or two on the one on the right, and then all three of them will be ready for some lacquer. So I've got lacquer going on the front knobs in the paint booth. That's like 3 coats already. And the small parts have been cleaned up. They're sitting there coated with some oil. And the last thing I got to do now is clean up the irons. So take the 150 grit paper around the edges, and after that's done, use 150 on my rubber sanding block and come over here to where I do my lapping. Look how long that is. Finish them up over there. I had second thoughts because these irons are looking really good, so I didn't do any lapping on them. I just lightly rubbed them with the 150 grit to kind of even up the patina, and then hit them with 3000 grit to finish it off. And that's what you end up with. Front and back both look really good. Now I got to figure out if that angle on the end is right. The easiest way to check the angle is to line the caps up so they're running parallel with the iron, and then see what it does across the front of the cap. And that one right there is off by quite a bit. The other two are pretty close to being dead on. So I can draw a black magic marker line across the front of the cap edge right there and give me a guide to go by as I start to sharpen them. So with 2 being dead on, I only had to draw a line across one, and that's what I'm going to use for my guide to make sure that I don't have to give it a lot of lateral to get some good shavings. So sharpening is next. So the irons are sharpened, and there's a look at the back side. And if I didn't say it already, I opted not to lap the flat surfaces of the irons. They had nice patina and no pitting, so it was just a cleanup. Side plates are all done. They've been waxed. The bases are completed. They've been given a coat of wax after the dirty oil was wiped off. Caps are done. Coat of wax on those. Knobs. All the small parts. Cleaned up real nice. The only thing left to do is put these beauties back together. And there you have them. 3 beautiful Stanley No. 140 Rabbet and block planes. These planes, having the Rabbet ability, are great for like cleaning up tenons or anywhere you got to get into a corner to do some planing. Removing that side plate allows you to do it. And I must say they cleaned up really nice. Taking a look from the other side. A look at the back sides. And a look at where the plates are. And here's a look at the bases and the throats. The throats of the 2 on the left are nice and tight. You can see the throat on the right is a little bit wider. If you didn't have a couple of these planes to compare to each other, you'd never know it, but it looks like that one might have been enlarged. And that plane has another issue. If you look at the cap right there, you see that circular line that goes around it. That's because it was broken repaired. On the inside, underside of the cap, it's been filled with, I don't know if that's solder or weld or what it is. But it's definitely a good repair for a user, and that's what this plane is going to be. It is a sweetheart. It's the one with the widened throat. Overall, 3 very nice planes, and they're ready for a test drive. 1-inch walnut in the vise. First up is the sweetheart with the widened throat and the repaired cap. Look at that, that's pretty. Rolling big shavings out of the throat. Until you've tried it, you're going to find out planing 1-inch walnut with a block plane is not as easy as using a base plane. But this one passes. On to the next one. And the next one up is another sweetheart. Got it set and ready to go. Look at that. Another one rolling them out of the throat. That's cool. It should be obvious that this one passes the test also. On to the next one. And finally, the last one is the oldest of the bunch. I haven't dated it yet, but it's well over 100 years old. See how she does. Oh yeah. Seems like after 100 years, she's working probably just as good as the day she was made. Another one passes the test. And you definitely get some unique shavings off the skewed blades. So just like forged in fire, these blades will cut. There's a look at the proof right there. Those are some pretty planes. So these three beauties can be added to the other planes that I finished over the last few days. And I'm going to move on to some number 65s. I think there's 3 of them. And to all you men out there that are wasting your money on Rogaine or the Hair Club for Men, I say, buy one of my 140s. You'll save a lot of money. Here they are. 3 planes almost as beautiful as me. All done. Ready to go on eBay in the month of June. And I'm going to move on and do those number 65s next. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.